Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/off the ball, and you have to be signed in to leave a comment for us. But do leave your comments and we'll get to them a little bit later on. Delighted to welcome Keith Treacy and Phil Egan to the studio. You're both very welcome. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
It does strike me. So Man City versus Liverpool is the first game that kicks off this weekend at 12:30 on BT Sport. There's the Premier League are like, no. International football, not important. Let's put Man City against Liverpool. They've started to do this, putting absolutely massive fixtures just to remind everybody this is where it's at, lads.
I'm fairly sure they'll get the numbers, won't they? For even though it's 12:30, and we were just talking off air, like the 12:30. I think fans maybe don't really like it too much when it's an early kick-off, but from a playing point of view, it makes no difference whatsoever. But mouth-watering game, isn't it, to get us going?
I have a vague memory of Liverpool hammering somebody in a game that they shouldn't have when they were just rising under Brendan Rodgers, when they were kind of announcing themselves. That's why I scored a first half hat-trick against somebody in a 12:30 kick-off that kind of announced them as title contenders.
Are you thinking of the Arsenal game when they beat Arsenal 5-0 at Anfield?
Oh, was that a 12:30?
It was that was a 12:30 game, yeah.
And like, it was shocking. And I always was like, there's something about these 12:30 kick-offs. There's always something a bit weird. But you're saying there's not.
No.
That's just
for players, they probably prefer them because you're thinking, I'll get in and I'll get out, I'll be finished, I'll go home to my family nice and early. And
Are you not having like boiled chicken and raw pasta, as in no sauce pasta, at like 8 o'clock in the morning? Going,
yeah, but that would I could eat anything any time now. I could wake up in the morning and have a boiled chicken breast, a bit of pasta, some scrambled egg. It really wouldn't bother me. It's
right.
Yeah, it makes no difference
because
to me.
That's how it has been as a professional all your life.
Yeah, well, especially in the Championship, you get thrown around. There's so many games coming thick and fast. Some of them are in the mornings, and you're travelling, and it really makes no difference to players. You're up a little bit earlier. The game comes thick and fast, and yeah, it makes absolutely no difference.
And is the warm up scientific enough now that you are as prepared and ready to go at 12:30 as you would have been if it was 3 o'clock, as you would be if it was a 7:30 or an 8 o'clock kickoff?
Yeah, I think it doesn't just creep up on you on the Friday. Lads, we're kicking off at 12:30 tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? You know,
try and get up earlier every day that week.
You know in advance it's coming, and mentally you're starting to get yourself ready, and you start to visualise things, and you're well ready for it before it comes. Like I say, it doesn't just get thrown in it.
One of the things we were just chatting about this off air as well is that there was like a period in the noughties where everybody started taking caffeine tablets, and then they would report afterwards that, funnily enough, they couldn't sleep. Do you know, you take a lot of caffeine before a game, you get very high and you're lying there wired at 3 o'clock in the morning. Were you guys on the caffeine?
We were on caffeine, but they weren't tablets. They were called like Pro Slams. They used to come in like a little test tube, and they were red and green, and you know, all the natural colours that you like.
Exactly. Yeah, what was in them?
I've no idea. I would literally say, I'm feeling a bit low on energy. Mark Howard would run away and he'd come back with one of these test tubes. I'd neck it, he'd slap me on the arse, and I'd go out and warm up, and my face would start to tingle. That's the only thing I remember. I'd drink it and my face would tingle, and
this doesn't seem great.
Still very rarely completed the 90 minutes, so they weren't that good.
What happened? Wine gums. Wine gums were always a
wine gums, jelly babies, Jaffa cakes, everything. But I was told to stay away from the Lucozade Sport. They didn't like it on the Lucozade Sport for some reason.
Because you crash. It's like a...
Yeah, I think it's you come up and you come straight down rather than, you know, an ascended thing.
John Barnes told us to have that. Remember,
it's isotonic.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that was a good ad, in fairness. Right, let's get into it. 5 games we're going to talk about: Manchester City versus Liverpool, Arsenal versus Leeds, Chelsea versus Aston Villa. City Liverpool is on BT Sport at 12:30. Premier Sports kick-off at 3 o'clock is Arsenal Leeds. Chelsea versus Villa is half 5 on Sky Sports. On Sunday, it's Newcastle versus Manchester United, which kicks off at 4:30 on Sky Sports. We'll have live comms for that game for you on Sunday on Off the Ball as well. And then on Monday night, it's Everton versus Spurs at 8 o'clock also on Sky Sports. Let's start with Man City and Liverpool. Did the wages of the Man City players get leaked this week? Is that an important thing to the dressing room where everybody's like, oh, you're getting paid that much, are you? Does that matter?
It can create problems, yeah, if there's a big gap. But like I say, I didn't know any of this. I'm not on social media, so I try to stay clear of this sort of stuff. But yeah, the Manchester City players.
When you were at a club, did you know how much everybody else was getting paid?
I knew what my friends were on.
Right.
And I say friends, the people that I was closest to in the dressing room.
Because they would tell you, or you just see it.
Yeah, well, when
they'd leave their payslip casually lying around in the front of the car when they're bringing it home.
No, it wouldn't be anything like that. It would be banter things, and like if my contract was coming up or somebody else's contract was coming up, you might say to your mate, listen, what are you getting, just so you know what you're in and about. But yeah, you might know your one or two mates, but you wouldn't know everybody's.
Did you have an agent the whole time?
Yeah, when I was in England, yeah.
Right, and so the agent obviously knows how much everybody's getting paid, right? Because they must be all telling each other to check.
Yeah, the agents do, but you know, agents are slippery customers at the best of times, so you need.
They're not necessarily telling you either what.
Exactly, yeah. They could be saying, "Give Keith 10, give us 5, and we'll balance out at 15 grand a week." So you just need to make sure that you cover your bases as well. Well, I did that anyway. I always asked my mates, asked Ross Wallace and Dean Marnie what they were earning, and didn't quite get what they were earning, but it was close enough.
Well, and that's why it's interesting where, like, if you're at a super club like Man City, the difference between, I get well paid at 250 grand, but you're getting really well paid at 350 grand. It's quite a lot of money. It's 5 million a year.
Yeah, but like, who's going? Pep has a ready-made answer. If you knock on the door and Haaland's on half a million a week or whatever, and you're saying, I want to be up to that, he goes, well, score as many goals as him, and then you can be on that much.
Yeah.
I imagine it's reflected in the quality of the player, and it's not just Rodri on half a million a week. I don't think it's as black and white as that. But yeah, I'd say it's all individual, and look, it can cause problems, but because everybody's well paid, aren't they?
That's the thing. We were talking about Rashford during the week and his new contract, and he comes out and denies that he's asking for $500,000 a week. And when you think about it, right, like when you think about the economics of football, Marcus Rashford at 25 getting paid $500,000 a week is not ludicrous compared to some of the other deals that are out there. So if you're his agent, you are asking for that. You should be asking for that.
Yeah, of course. And you look around, like, I'm not saying Rashford and Mbappe are cut from the same cloth. They're two very, very good players. But that's if Mbappe's earning reportedly up close to $1 million a week, your agent is going to be saying, well, Marcus Rashford is not far behind him. How about $500,000 a week? And when you go in with them sort of deals, it's hard for the hierarchy at Manchester United say, well, we're not paying that. Well, because you can probably get it somewhere else.
Exactly. And also the track record at Manchester United is that they do pay massive amounts to players. Like Pogba was on a big deal. We know Alexis Sanchez was on a massive deal. We know De Gea was the best paid goalkeeper in the world for a long period of time. Does that stuff unsettle? So say Sanchez is the best paid player and not playing well. Does that unsettle the dressing room?
It can, because sometimes you're thinking you need players in the door, and it will start coming out in the media. You need one or two more players, and then it will say, oh, well, the finances are tied up, and he's earning so much a week, and he's not even in the team. So it can start to leak into the dressing room that way. You can start to, I wouldn't say resent, because players it doesn't get that personal between players, but it can cause friction. It's not something you want coming out in the media. But like I say, it's not like the Man City first team player is earning buttons and the other fella's earning $500,000 a week. Everybody's very well paid, so I can imagine they'll all just get over it.
Yeah, okay. Manchester City against Liverpool. Phil, what do you think?
Well, I didn't think there'd be 19 points between Manchester City and Liverpool by the time this game came around, and I would imagine that the people that scheduled the game felt the same about it.
Or that City wouldn't even be top.
Yeah, absolutely, and 8 points off top spot. But yeah, it's such an important 7 days for Liverpool, where they play City, Chelsea and Arsenal over the space of 8 days, and that defines their season. And I don't know how confident you would be as a Liverpool fan that they're going to pick up even 6 out of 9 points in those ones. In terms of City, because Arsenal keep winning, City are under pressure to keep winning as well, but it does, the fact that it's the first game of the weekend, it does give City a chance. I know Arsenal are playing at 3 o'clock, but they'll be well aware of what happens. So if City go out and beat Liverpool, puts just a little bit more pressure on Arsenal at 3 o'clock tomorrow when they play Leeds.
What do you expect to happen though?
I expect City to win. I think Liverpool, we've been talking about 12 kickoffs, haven't won one yet this season. Obviously their last league game was that 1-0 defeat away to Bournemouth. They've obviously lost away to Brentford. They've lost away to too many teams this season. They've only won 3 games away from home in the league this season. So their away form hasn't been good. I know they've beaten City already this season at Anfield, but you just think that City, even if Haaland is playing or if he's not playing, that they just have so much of the ball and they'll be able to get in behind that Liverpool defence, which contains Virgil van Dijk, who got absolutely hammered by a few Dutch legends after the performance against France. Van Basten and Hullet sticking the boot into him, and Van Dijk just came out afterwards and said, I'm shattered, I'm not a robot. So that would suggest like a lot of Liverpool players that the last season has caught up with them, and even one of the injuries they have, an 18-year-old in Bajcetic, the fact that that's seen as a big blow for them just kind of tells you where they are.
He was supposed to be a bonus for them this season. If he played significant minutes, then it was because he was doing great, but now he becomes a mainstay of the team and suddenly it's like, well, we are paper thin.
Like Liverpool have enough in them that they could cause City problems, but I don't think they could do it for the whole 90 minutes. So they'll have chances in the game, whether they put them away. Can Liverpool keep a clean sheet? I don't think so.
That all sounds logical.
Yeah, look, I do fancy City. I have the stat here that Manchester City have only lost once in the last 51 games when they score first. So that puts an awful lot of importance on the first goal. And you imagine Haaland will start. I imagine that Pep Guardiola spoke to the Norwegian FA and said he's injured, but I've had it myself where you get sent over, you give them a scan, you fly back, and you know yourself, I'm going to be ready for the big game coming. And it shouldn't be like that. You know, your country should come first, but look, when their club pays your wages, they generally pull the string. So I expect Haaland to start. A big plus for Manchester City as well was Pep Guardiola. He does this thing where even if Kevin De Bruyne, whoever it is, if they're not playing well, he takes them out, slaps them on the wrist, and he will say in the media he hasn't reached the levels that I expect of him. De Bruyne scored a goal for Belgium, set up 2 as well in the international break, so he looks like he's coming back to form as well. And look, it's 19 goals in the last 5 games, 5 clean sheets. And people are still saying City haven't been great.
They're starting to crank it up though. Like we can pinpoint okay, that's when that started, and we're in the middle of it now.
Yeah, and now like obviously the fact that we're back tomorrow means that this is it now. Between now and the end of the season, this is squeaky bum time.
Is there any case that this is the day to get them, where they're just back and they haven't had ages to build up? Notwithstanding the fact that a lot of them have gone away and played quite well, that actually, if there is going to be any blip, it's going to come now or never.
No, I get that, and I think other teams might be able to take advantage, but I feel Liverpool sometimes under Klopp, when there's been a break in play, or even sometimes when they go away on training camps and they come back, they never hit the ground running. So I don't think Liverpool will be able to take advantage. Now, I know looks like Núñez will be alright. Diaz is back. He's not going to start Diaz. He might have a cameo off the bench, but again, it's just that it's in midfield where City are so strong, they'll have control, that I just think they'll be too strong for Liverpool, and it's a case of Liverpool will then be depending on results to go their way over the weekend, and then they'll have to regroup for the game against Chelsea on Tuesday, and then they've Arsenal. Of those 3 games, I'd actually fancy Liverpool to win the Arsenal game. Of the City, Chelsea, and because it's at Anfield.
Okay, and their home form has been way better.
Yep.
It's so pronounced the difference. All right, let's move on to the Arsenal then at 3 o'clock. How much does it matter what the result is beforehand? How do they make sure that it doesn't matter that much, Keith? How do you make sure that like exterior influences don't change your approach to the game, and that you're not suddenly trying to protect a lead, a point? You're actually just going try and smash leads, keep that going. We're champions elect, we should be here, we're all brilliant. What do you do? How do you pitch that psychologically?
It's difficult, it really is, and the best thing that can happen for Arsenal is that Manchester City go and win their game, because then it's black and white, just go and win the game. City have won, you need to go and win. If City get a draw or maybe even a loss against Liverpool, that's when the Arsenal players might just, because they will see it on their phones, they'll see it on social media, it will be around the ground, they'll feel it in the air, and that's when it could just creep in. They might be thinking, oh well, City haven't got anything today, we can just take our foot off the gas ever so slightly. And Leeds have attacking players to hurt you, they really do, they can hurt you, but defensively Leeds are very, very shaky. So I expect Arsenal to be able to go and get the win. Gabriel Jesus coming back to fitness is a big, big plus for them. And again, another great stat that I uncovered, this Arsenal side has won 22 Premier League games already. That's more than the Invincibles won at this time, when they won the league in 2003-2004.
Yeah. Points totals were much lower in those days. None of the kind of record-breaking points totals we've seen in recent seasons. I don't know what that says. Maybe they weren't as good as we thought they were. Or maybe the rest of everybody has actually not got I don't know. I don't really know how to read those difference in point totals.
They were a good team.
They were a good team.
They were very good, and this Arsenal team have shown that they've been excellent this season. This is to win 7 in a row in the league, which is quite the bounce back from the defeat to Manchester City, which around that time as well, they'd been beaten by Everton, they dropped points against Brentford. But those 2 games that really stand out are the Bournemouth game, the Villa game, where they had to come from behind, and they did it. Now, at the time, I remember thinking they were big. Are you cashing in your chips for those comebacks a bit too early? But
it turned out it wasn't. It was
like just the way they took Palace apart. I don't know if they'll do the exact same to Leeds. Leeds are fighting for their lives, and I think Leeds have other games where they'd be thinking it's more realistic that we pick up points. But when you're down at the bottom, you can't really pick and choose what games you turn on and off for. And I was going to say, I thought they were a bit more solid under Gracia. But then the Wolves game was just a crazy game. Maybe it's just what happens when Wolves and Leeds meet at Molyneux. The fact that they were 3-0 up cruising, then it goes 3-2, players sent off, and they see it out. But things have definitely improved since Gracia's got in. Tyler Adams out is a big blow. I think he's been excellent for them. But like Keith said, they do have players on the break that could do a bit of damage to Arsenal, who obviously Saliba has been out the last couple of games, and Rob Holding just saying William Saliba. So I'm not sure the exact.
So it's not a gimme.
I would say I think it would be a gimme.
Okay.
I would put down it as a gimme.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but these are the ones that Arsenal fans will know. These are the ones that you really, really worry about Arsenal when they're expected to go and wipe teams away and just bat them off. If Leeds stick around, they can make it very, very, very etchy for Arsenal. But look, even I watched Saka during the week against Ukraine, and his goal was absolutely outstanding. To be able to see such a young lad do it at Arsenal is one thing, where he's comfortable, he's familiar with the players, the manager has an awful lot of faith in him. But to go away with the national team in the European qualifier, and the goal he scored against Ukraine when he just caressed it into the top corner was brilliant. 10 goals and 10 assists already. I expect Arsenal to win, but I would have to keep an eye on it, because like I say, I wouldn't be 100% sure just yet.
Yeah, so 3 o'clock kick-off on Premier Sports, Arsenal versus Leeds. The next game we're going to talk about is Chelsea against Aston Villa. Chelsea's form was rebounding. They're obviously not finished as a team just yet. They're not like where they need to be, and this is a tricky fixture for them because Villa under Unai Emery have been decent.
Yeah, well, they're about level on points, and I think that Dortmund win was so big for Potter, but it's just still a few bad results and things turn quickly. So I mentioned that they play Liverpool on Tuesday. So say they drop points against Villa tomorrow, and then they drop points against Liverpool. They play Wolves next weekend, and then you're going into that Champions League game against Real Madrid. Now, at least with the Real Madrid tie to come, whoever he plays, they're all playing for their places. They all want to play in that tie.
I think as well, being drawn against Real Madrid, it's not a free shot because you're Chelsea in the Champions League and you spent a gazillion, but it's a bit of a free shot. As free shots go, it's the closest to it.
Nobody expects Chelsea to win,
exactly.
Really, do they?
Yeah, they're going to be underdogs.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, they will be under that. You just don't know what you're getting with this Chelsea team. Like we say, they went and beat Leeds, beat Dortmund, beat Leicester, and then you're thinking, all right, Graham Potter's going to catch a bit of fire, here we go, and then they draw it against Everton. And defensively, they're good. They're very, very good. I think their numbers, the goals they conceded is actually quite good, but in terms of scoring goals, it's like a goal a game, which is not good enough at Chelsea, especially if you want to be up at the top of the league. They've an injury list as long as my arm, but the one that really stands out for me, and he's only injured a month or so, is Thiago Silva. He was the real standard setter there. He was the one who got the younger lads, the likes of Reece James, even Chidwell at left back. He was getting them all. He bossed them all around, and losing that voice, losing somebody who can read the game like that, is a big, big thing for Chelsea. And I don't see, they're 10th now. I think they'll be 10th there or thereabouts at the end of the season.
So you don't feel like we're in the middle of a Chelsea run here where Potter nails down the fact that he's going to be the manager next season and everything's grand? Do you still think that there's going to be questions at the end of this?
Yeah, I think more questions will come. What I hope happens is that Chelsea just let him get to the end of the season and really give him a good go at it next season with get João Felix into the building on a permanent contract. He looks like a great player. Again, he's not somebody who will hit the back of the net 20 times a season, but he's a very good player. If Potter can go out and get a goal scorer, in midfielder as well, then I think next season Chelsea could be very, very good under Potter. But this season, I think it'll just dwindle out into where they are now.
What about the job Unai Emery's doing? Have you been impressed, not impressed? What have you made so far?
Well, it didn't take us long to realise that Steven Gerrard at Villa just wasn't meant to be, and Unai Emery has come in. He's, again, he'll be quite clever, I'd say, in the summer with his recruitment, and they're quite hard to beat. So I think he's done a pretty good job. Like, it's kind of gone under the radar a little bit. They've had a few blips here and there, but generally when you watch them, they're competitive in games regardless of who they're playing. So I think I would be confident enough that they can go to Stamford Bridge and put in a performance and get something out of the game. But he came in and it was just a case of just get them winning again. There's no talk about relegation. Sure, they've 38 points, and then next season is when we'll really judge him.
They're talking about trying to qualify for Europe in the press conferences. I do love a made-up league table. It's one of my favourite things. I remember one year Leeds had the most points in a calendar year under David O'Leary. It was like, you don't get a trophy for that, lads. There is no trophy.
Solskjaer took over United.
Exactly. Well, since Unai Emery has come to the Premier League,
Yeah.
Do you know what position Aston Villa are in the Unai Emery table? They're 5th. I mean, it's not it's we're all a bit shocked, right?
Yeah, I knew they
Arsenal,
were doing
City,
well.
United, Liverpool, and then Villa on 5th. 2 points clear of Brighton in 6th.
Yeah, like Phil says, they're a very hard team to beat now all of a sudden, and I like what Unai Emery did at Arsenal. I think what he did, he was decent, and he showed he was a good coach, and then you're thinking he's coming back in, and again, everybody expected him to ease away from the relegation worries. It's easier said than done, but Unai Emery has done that. He put the relegation worries behind him. There's still 10 games to go, so he's doing a good job. He's doing a very good job, and with the connections he has all over Europe, I can see him bringing some decent players into Villa.
Centre halves is what they need, and I know they put it all in last summer, and then they've got injuries, so they were back to square one. But yeah, if they can get a more solid defence. One thing, when he was Arsenal manager, there was times in games where they were ahead and you thought, they're in the ascendancy here, but he sometimes tried to shut up shop and they got caught out there. But Villa are a massive club, but at the time the pressure cooker that Arsenal were, it just, it
didn't suit.
It kind of ran out of time.
Yeah, and I think maybe this bringing a team up to a standard that they haven't been to is going to be a different proposition for him, and hopefully one that he's better equipped to deal with. So yeah, 5th in a made-up table over an imaginary period of time is the life of an Aston Villa fan these days, and we're bloody happy about it. I'm going to tell you.
Ollie Watkins has been key to that.
We're bloody happy. He's been excellent. Yeah. Really excellent. And his return to form, Louise's return to form, they were even getting something like Coutinho before the injury. Tyrone Mings looks like a footballer again. I mean, that's all the signs of an adult in the room, giving people confidence, telling them it's going to be okay, not trying to ping one in and train it from 50 yards himself. Anyway, this is the football kickoff with Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to take a quick break and we're back talking Newcastle United and Newcastle versus Man United and Everton Spurs.
The football kickoff
with Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
The football kickoff
with Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Right, 2 more fixtures for us to talk about. Newcastle versus Manchester United kicks off at 4:30 on Sunday afternoon, and Everton against Spurs is at 8 o'clock. We've got Phil Egan and Keith Treacy with us in studio. Newcastle versus Manchester United is an interesting fixture because we get to really see if Newcastle's recent uptick in form wasn't just short term. If they can actually do something at home against Manchester United, that's a sign that they're going to be properly in the midst of the battle for 4th.
Yeah, well, they're definitely in the battle for 4th already. They seemed, like you said, like they got their 2 wins on the bounce just before the break. A win puts them level on points with United, and look, if it was in Old Trafford, I would expect United to win the game. The fact that it's in St James's, I'm leaning a little bit towards Newcastle. Their defence is very, very strong. We all know Manchester United's attacking prowess, how good they are, especially Rashford, but I think if you take Rashford has 14 Premier League goals. The next one there is Bruno Fernandes with 5, so he needs a bit of help. Rashford, how good he's been. If you can get the likes of Sancho, Fernandes, Anthony, Garnacho getting up to winning like double figures, I think United are going to be a real force. But to go back to Newcastle, yeah, I think St James is going to be bouncing. Huge incentive for them. It's good now they got the cup final out of the way. The cup final was a big distraction for them. They had a little blip as well, so I expect them to it'll be the battle I'm looking forward to see is the Brazilians in the middle of the pitch. Obviously Fred and Casemiro up against Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes. I think it'll be a great battle, and look, I think Newcastle owe United one after what happened in the final as well. So yeah, surprisingly enough, I actually expect Newcastle to win.
Okay, right. What do you think, Phil?
Well, Casemiro can't play. He's suspended, and that's like he's got the 4-game ban. So this is going to be an issue for United, and if they lose this, Newcastle go ahead of them. I know we have, Spurs are playing on Monday. United could be down in 5th place by Monday night, and Casemiro going to be out for a few more games. A few players looking a bit leggy because they've had their schedule has been relentless, and the international break probably came at a good time for United. I know players went away and played, but United were they were at a stage where they were playing every 3 days.
Rashford obviously didn't go away and play. He went to New York and had a good time.
Well, if he comes back and starts scoring, they don't care. But it goes back to what I said about Van Dijk. Like, the players aren't robots. Like, so Rashford, there's certain games where I thought he would have got taken out of the starting 11 because he's played that much.
But they kind of needed him, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. He has been their main man this season. So it's massive. I wonder, McTominay had a great international break, scoring 2 goals against Cyprus and then 2 against Spain, and he's actually quite a good finisher because he would have played up front as a youth. But where do you play him? I wonder, could you play him in the Weghorst role? Because I watched a bit of the Netherlands against Gibraltar.
50 shots. Is that real? Was that a real stat?
I think 49 attempts on goal they had. Right. Since Opta came in and did how many touches you have in the opposition box, nobody's had more than the Dutch had the other night. But Weghorst, honestly, they could have been out there for another 90 minutes and he couldn't score. He gets himself into the position, but he just can't. I just think he's so out of his depth at Manchester United. So I wonder. McTominay also, there has been a lot of talk about Newcastle trying to sign McTominay.
I don't personally understand that. I don't think he's the type of player that they need. If they're going to add players, he's just an extra body that isn't going to improve what they already have.
Well, I mean, he could improve squad depth as well. He has to build a squad, and that's probably what's happened to Newcastle as well, where they play quite an intense game and they looked a bit leggy, and obviously the fallout from the cup final, Eddie Howe said, it was all built up towards this. But those 2 wins, the Wolves one, but more importantly the Forest one, that to win it, like, City Ground is quite a tough place to go. As bad as Forest have been at times this season, their home form's been really good, so it just felt like a really big win. And we were talking about the 12:30 game. 4:30 on a Sunday, St James's Park is going to be absolutely hopping, and they'll fancy their chances. And they know if they win, they go ahead of United. And like Newcastle, my kind of feeling towards Newcastle was if they were going to fall off, it's not from losing games; they just draw too many games.
If Isak starts scoring at the rate that he's been scoring at just recently, and he looked really good in those games as well. Like, he looked dangerous when he was getting the ball. He was in dangerous positions. You really have to account for him. You have to be totally aware. And Almiron had kind of come off the amazing form he was at the start of the season, when it was absolutely sensational. But he seems to have picked it back up again as well, which I guess are all signs of good management as well, where not everybody's gelling at the same time, but after a period they come back to the form that they were capable of being in.
Yeah, that's what Eddie Howe is good at. That he will keep the lads going. He knows they've come off the boil, but I was a little bit surprised when he said it about the cup final being a distraction. I thought he would have kept that in house and just sort of told the lads, you need to be a little bit more professional and look at the big picture. But to come out and say that, I thought was good. And yeah, with Almiron getting his goal again against Wolves, it seems to have got back on board. And yeah, there's an awful lot to like about this Newcastle team, but there seems to be an expectance that they're a top 4 team now already with the fans. And I keep saying to them that yous are doing brilliant, yous are overachieving at the minute. Yous are probably 2 or 3 players away from being able to say we deserve to be at the top table at the minute. And yeah, I see them maybe finishing in around 6, just because I think a couple of teams are just going to hit the sprint button and just go past them. And like I say, they're probably 2 or 3 players just away from being a real force in this league. But all positives this season. I don't think any Newcastle fan can look at the season and think I'm not happy with what I'm seeing or the points total we've got. So all positives there.
Are you sure that the owners aren't going to pull the trigger on Eddie Howe if he finishes outside the top 4? That they'll be like, oh, you were close but not close enough. We gave you your chance. Away you go.
Well, if they do, Eddie Howe should just go in and say, listen, you were in a relegation battle when I took over, and now he's sacking me because we didn't.
Seen the
win
Eddie
on
Howe
top
table?
4.
The Eddie Howe table.
Yeah, well, and look, that's coming from me. So look, Eddie Howe's done an absolutely great job, and for me to be saying, he should stay in it is a big thing, because we didn't see eye to eye when we were manager and player. But I think he's been outstanding, and if he was to finish 6th and somehow get sacked from Newcastle, I think that's mental.
There'd be a queue of clubs trying to get him back, but I just do think that sometimes the owners of these clubs aren't necessarily thinking long term or strategic, or they're like, shiny new thing, I get to go and be a boss, I'm going to fire you.
Yeah, and they get excited, like they just think, well, if Eddie Howe can do this, imagine what such and such
Antonio Conte or whoever.
He didn't just go out and sign a checkbook and bring all these players in. He improved a lot of players like Almiron. Joe Linton was a laughing stock when he came into the club, and he's improved an awful lot of players. So it's not just like he got good players players into the club. He improved the players that were there as well. So again, big bonuses.
Question from Conor Costello in the comments: why do you put United after Leeds but not Newcastle? I'll tell you why, Conor. Because Leeds has 5 letters in it and Newcastle has at least 8. And there's not enough room for Newcastle United versus Man United on the whole thing, but there is room for Arsenal versus Leeds United. That's it. There's no conspiracy other than it's like for the point of brevity. But thanks for the comment, Conor. You can put your tin hat away. One more game for us to go. Everton versus Spurs. This is really interesting, right? Like, Dyche gets things turned around a bit, and then everybody is like back to reality, and then they get them back up again. And so, what is it? Back to reality? Is he trending in the right direction? What's going on?
Yeah, look, Sean Dyche will get the Premier League table you're making up. He will have his Premier League table from when he came into Everton. He'll say, lads, we're sitting 14th, 13th in the league, wherever it is. That's what we're doing. We're absolutely fine. We can get better. Since I've come in, we're not in a relegation battle. Keep doing what we're doing, picking up points. They're hard to beat. And look, Sean Dyche demands things of you. He demands a work rate. He demands that you do the basics well. But if that's all a manager is asking for you, that you run around, you get sweat on the jersey and you do the basics well, where's the fear? There's very little fear. Tactically, he won't give out to you because he plays a 4-4-2. It's a very easy system to play. Every footballer knows it. It's very, very simple. It's easy stuff. Do the basics well. And players are starting to try from it. Demarai Gray is getting on the score sheet. He's starting to get assists. I'm very nervous of where the goals are going to come from. But they only need to score 1 goal if they can keep the other team out. So, look, I think everybody can say they look a lot more solid. They're a lot tougher to beat. They're even scoring goals now in twos in games, which was something they weren't doing under Lampard. So, look, I actually think Everton will get something out of this game. I think Tottenham are in such turmoil at the minute that Everton will just go and run all over them and show the spirit and desire that Tottenham don't have. And yeah, it won't be pretty, but I think Everton will get the win.
Well, that would be a massive result for them. The one thing is that when Conte wasn't there and the 2 lads were in charge, they got really good results. So
it's just what a few
do you get
weeks.
a new manager bounce if it's not really a new manager?
I just think it's interesting that they kept his assistant. Now, obviously, it probably goes back to the spell that he had when Conte was recovering from the surgery. But you just wonder how it's going to play out at Spurs, that they have 10 games to go, that are the players going to, just show, like, we're going to prove you wrong. You called us selfish, basically. Effectively, Conte said, like, I can't work with these guys. They're losers, And can these players shove it back down his throat and go, well, this is how we finish the season? But if they don't, then Conte will probably be laughing to himself going, I told you so.
One other factor in that, the headline this week from Manchester United's financial figures, was basically they're $1 billion in debt, right? But buried in the middle of it was a line about how their wage bill had gone down significantly because they're not in the Champions League this year. So it's like a 20% pay cut if you're not in the Champions League for those players. That's all baked into their contracts. It's quite a big inducement for the players to put it down for the next 2.5 months. Work your nuts off for 2.5 months and we're going to get an extra 20% paid. Everyone's going to work for that, right?
You think that's bad in the Championship? I've been relegated in the Premiership and gone up in the Championship, it's 100%.
Okay.
So if you're on 20 grand a week in the Premiership and you get relegated to the Championship, you're dropping 100%. So it's
50, so to 10, 50%. Yeah.
50%.
But if you go up, does it go the other way?
It goes the other way.
Oh, right, okay.
Well. So it's a double-edged sword. So the last 10 games or so, when you see people running through brick walls, all of a sudden it's financially motivated.
It works, apparently. So what do you think?
I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, because said if they go on and finish strongly, then they can give the 2 fingers to Conte. Said don't. But
this is the fixture, isn't it? This is where you get to see what they're like. It's Goodison. It's under lights.
Like you're saying, if Tottenham do go and finish the season really, really strongly, is Conte not right with what he was saying in the press conference?
Potentially, yeah. I think Conte said a lot of stuff that was true, but didn't take any responsibility. Or it was almost like he was watching it like someone who wasn't capable of influencing
that's true.
Yeah, that's the problem.
He's a lot to answer for as well. Where you look at the Champions League performance against AC Milan. It was the second leg. It was pathetic. And that's a guy that hasn't got a good record in the Champions League. And that wasn't I know Milan are the current Italian champions, but they aren't the team that they were last season. And so many games they just set out and they were just too cautious. And he has his way of playing, and it's effective against certain teams. But I think Spurs fans are just fed up, and I think it was a win-win for everyone to get rid of him. But now there's obviously other stuff happening off the field as well, where Paratici's going to have to go as well.
That's mad, isn't it?
And that just seems bizarre that they weren't expecting this. A guy that's got banned in Italy isn't going to... It wasn't until somebody actually asked for some clarity from FIFA. You know, that ban in Italy...
Does that carry over?
Does that carry over? And they were like, oh, let us get back to you. Actually, it turns out it does.
Yeah.
And that's Paratici gone. It just doesn't bode well, and their next appointment they have to get it spot on.
And it's not just going to be one appointment, though. It'll obviously have to be multiple appointments. You know, somebody's going to have to replace Paratici and take over that idea of recruitment, which they haven't been great at.
But they are an attractive club to manage.
Absolutely, and the money is great if you're a manager of Spurs. Is the squad as bad as we think? Because like they're doing really well. You know, if you didn't know anything about how the season had gone, and you're like, oh, Spurs still in the battle for fourth, got to the latter stages of the Champions League. If you didn't know everything and all the mood music and how the performances hadn't been great, you'd have to say that actually they're still in there with a really good chance of finishing in the top four.
That's where I'm coming down on it, Ger. I have to be honest. I think they're sitting fourth in the league. I know that they've 2 games. They've played 2 games more than a couple of clubs, but at the minute they're sitting fourth. I know it hasn't been pretty. I know the press conference that Conte did was self-destructive and he was calling players selfish, but they're fourth in the league. If they try and play attractive football through the lines, I think there's an awful lot of teams in the Premier League that are better at football than this. Bar the ones that are ahead of them, I think Brighton are better than them. I think Liverpool are better than them at playing football. I think there's probably in around 7th at best playing football. So the only way they finish fourth is the way that Conte has them playing.
Okay.
That's the way I think. It's not nice on the eye, but sometimes you just got to grin and bear it and think, look, there's a lot of good footballing teams out there. So if we have to do a bit of hustle and bustle, a bit of defensive work and that, so be it. This is how we get forward.
They're never really going to push on though from the way Conte, like it's not going to develop. If you're 7th and you're playing nice, open, attractive football, but you're getting picked apart, but it gets better, you get better players, and all of a sudden you're not getting picked apart. It's a gradual. It's like what Pochettino did with them, and Spurs fans, that's what they want. But with Conte, you're not getting that.
No, it hit its ceiling.
Yeah.
And sorry, if the recruitment had been sensational, its ceiling was probably much better than we had seen.
Well, some of the players he signed Perisic, who is he's a great player, but he hasn't been good for Spurs.
Well, he's also 34 at this stage of his career. Like, it was a very short term.
Conte's not thinking 2-3 year plan.
No,
he's thinking,
he was thinking 6 months.
This now. Yeah. I need to get results now. And look, he's long enough in the tooth to know that if I put a 2-year planning process and we don't do well for 6 months, I'm out the door.
Yeah.
So what's the point in that? So you need to be realistic with it as well. And look, it did now well for Conte, but I don't think Spurs stay in fourth when he leaves. I think there's only one way Spurs go.
All right, well, we'll find out Monday night how Everton get on against them. That game kicks off at 8 o'clock, and obviously we'll keep you updated on it on Off the Ball on News Talk as well. That is this week's episode of the Football Kickoff. My thanks to Keith Treacy and to Phil Egan for being with us over the course of the last half hour or so. We're here, we stream every Friday afternoon around about 11:30 on our social channels. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and you get us there. And of course, we're obviously on the radio on Off the Ball on News Talk every Friday evening as well.
The Football Kickoff
with Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.